المستضعفين من المسلمين في فلسطين اللهم كن لهم عونا ونصيرا اللهم كن لإخواننا المرابطين في المسجد الأقصى اللهم كن لهم ولا تكن عليهم اللهم فرج همهم نفس كربهم داوي جرحاهم عاف مبتلاهم اشف مرضاهم ارحم موتاهم تقبل شهداءهم.
Radio Ansaar.
The views and opinions expressed by the presenters and guests of Radio Ansaar are not necessarily the views and opinions of Radio Ansaar and the Ansaar Foundation.
Every student can learn, just not on the same day or the same way. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. Education's purpose is to replace an empty mind with an opened one.
Join Sumaya Khan every Tuesdays between 7 and 8 p.m. for an educational evening exclusive to Radio Ansaar.
Your education is a dress rehearsal for a life that is yours to lead.
Pila no kolo yelele
Subhanallah walhamdulillah La ilaha illallah wallahu akbar Subhanallah walhamdulillah La ilaha
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to School Matters with me, Sumaya Khan. Yes, alhamdulillah, can you believe it's the second school term already? And our learners are busy catching up, getting ready for exams, control tests. And can you believe it too? Just the other day we were honoring our matric learners of 2025. And now the class of 2026 is getting ready. Our topic this evening: our schools are not for sale. Fairness, transparency, and accountability in school leadership appointments. Well, you know, the show where we're going to tackle the issues shaping education and the future of our children, especially in South Africa. Today, we discuss a topic that has sparked intense debate across schools and communities. Are leadership appointments in our schools truly based on merit, or are they favoritism, interference, and predetermined outcomes undermining the system? Well, an article entitled "Our Schools Are Not for Sale" raised many concerns, serious concerns, about fairness, transparency, accountability, and the integrity of promotion. You know, the processes for school leadership positions. The article argues that when appointments are influenced by corruption, intimidation, or personal interest, it is not only educators who suffer. Learners, school, community, and, you know, everyone pays the price for it. So joining us today, this evening, is our guest who will help us unpack these concerns and explore solutions that restore confidence in the education system. Brother GANI is no first time to School Matters. He is the chair for the Parents Association for KZN. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And also salams to your listeners and good evening to everybody out there.
Well, before we start, our WhatsApp number is 060-904-1056. That's 060-904-1056. So if you're an educator or if you're just anyone who wants to ask Mr. GANI questions, feel free to WhatsApp and we will try to read all of them.
Yeah, we'll try to get them.
Well, this is a hot topic. There's so many whistleblowers. You and I were kind of debating the whole idea. But again, as you said, we should make everyone aware, conscious of what is going on, and we should continue talking. So let's start with the first one. As everyone knows, you are...
Why I wrote the article.
Yeah. What inspired the publication of Our Schools Are Not For Sale? And you did it at the perfect time when the HRM Bulletin of CVs were dispatched, sent to the district offices, and now people were waiting, and it just got released. The post.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, look, I've written about this particular topic in the past as well. I've written about it because I think I sit in a position where I get various complaints that come to our offices, and these complaints just allude to corruption, fraud, maladministration, intimidation, interference, a whole host of things. And the allegations that are made are from various different people. So, for example, members of the governing body or a particular member of the governing body will complain about interference from the principal or the SEM or somebody who's not related in any way to the school, somebody who's there on the outskirts of the periphery of the school, but who still has kind of influence over the processes, retired and past principals. So I can tell you stories sitting here, and more often than not, and you think, but why aren't people just doing the right thing? So I've written about this particular previous, I think about a year and a half ago, when there was a previous promotion post, I wrote an article, something similar to this, and then this one I just broke it entirely down, and because there's interference coming from all quarters, allegations of interference from principals, from members of the governing body themselves, from educators in the school, because they either want to be appointed or they want their friends to be appointed, from department officials,
unions.
and from unions, and it's just a quagmire because there's so much of interference. And so for me it's like, and people say this all the time, they say, but there's interference, and I'm like, but hang on a second, if you're doing this process, it's your process as a governing body, and if I'm sitting in an interview committee of 5 people or 6 people or 7 people, if I'm sitting there with unions, if I'm sitting there with my principal, because it's a process that the principal's the resource person, if I'm sitting there because if the department official is sitting there, I'm going to make my feelings very known, and I'm going to say to them, listen, we're going to go through every CV, we're going to interrogate every CV, and out of all the CVs that are here, we're going to pull out the gold, which means we're going to pull out all the CVs irrespective of who the person is, whether they Muslim or not, whether they're Indian or, it doesn't matter, irrespective of race, color, creed, condition, all of that. We're going to look for that.
I'm going to cut you there, right? You said pull out the gold, right? But today the gold, the CVs go missing because the gold is the threat. I mean, normally the educators who have the experience, the qualifications.
No, but hang on a second, right? How do the CVs go missing?
That's the question.
Well, it can't, because this is what it is. And I don't know whether a lot of people know this, but they should. If you're sitting in the promotion post process as an interview committee, and let's say you got a promotion post there for, let's say, a deputy principal, example. When you are given the CVs, you are giving a schedule of those CVs.
Yeah.
And on that schedule is the names and the personnel number of each applicant. Now, you say it goes missing, right? Now, what the circuit officers normally do, and related officers, is that they take the CVs out and then they put them wherever they need to put them. They pull out those that are not compliant in a way.
Yeah.
But even those CVs that are not compliant, they are supposed to list the name of the person, the personnel number, and the reason why the CV was not compliant. And they need to submit that CV as well. They need to do that.
Ones.
They need to do that. So you can't keep things separately, because anybody's CV could be pulled out. And you have a right to challenge it, to say, I want to know that my CV went and made it through to that process. So there are mechanisms in place. The problem is that the people that sit in these processes, sometimes they know, sometimes they don't know. And if you don't know what the process is all about, the chances are you're going to be intimidated, you're going to be influenced, you're going to be goaded and chided into making a particular kind of selection, even though you may not want to, because you pushed in that direction. So the idea is you make sure, and if I'm sitting there, if you're sitting there and you say to them, listen guys, we've got 30 CVs. Let's spend our time and go through each of those CVs and give each one its dues. Give it its dues. Go through it, mark them properly, all right? And then from there, pick up the gold. And in that gold, you'll pick up 5-6 CVs that will be good. CVs that will have all the necessary skills and competencies that are required for the post. You'll get that, okay? Because, if you're looking for a deputy principal post, most people that would apply would be what? HODs. Because they have the management experience already. They're sitting on that level. Even for a principal's post, HODs and deputy principals apply. Why? Because they have the management skills, they have the competencies, they've done that. You just need to look at and see, okay, from these, what can we pull out that offers us more, gives us more? They've got leadership, they've got management, they've got this, they've got that, they've got HR, they've got all these skills. Pull that out. That's what we need. All right? And then from there, subject them to the interview. In the interview, make it so that you are extracting information from them. You're not getting those questions that have been pre-printed and circulated in the entire industry for the past 10, 12 years. And people who apply for, you know what I'm talking about. Those pre-printed questions that organizations have done and given model answers for, and says, right, okay, if they ask you this, then this is what you're going to have to say. No, think outside the box. There was one interview that happened where they took a passage and they've said to the person, can you please write this passage on the board? That was one of the questions, not really questions, one of the tasks. We want you to write this. And what they were judging from that, they were judging accuracy, they were judging neatness, because that tells you a lot. Do you understand? It's thinking outside the box, okay? It's not asking you those same rhetorical questions that everyone, including the unions, have been giving through all their members, and it's been circulated widely. Okay, these are the questions. And then you sit there and you pick, okay, we're going to need 5 questions, all right? So let's do this. Let's look at these 20 questions or 25 questions, and then let's look at that, and then let's take 5 questions from there, and we'll change it slightly. No, just think outside the box. But that's what happens. So what I'm saying is that you want to appoint somebody in your school, you make sure that it's the right person. Whether it's the person from internal or external. But you won't know that. Now, what has happened, and very often it's happened, people will take people from within the school. Why? Because, hey, I know this character, I know this educator has been here for years, this educator deserves a promotion, they're very good with us. It's not about you. It's about, are they competent to do a job, and how do they measure against every other candidate? That's what your bargaining tool or your measuring stick is. It's not about what you know. It's about how well do they measure in terms of the goal that you have. And once you look at that 5 or 6 gold, you'll pick one diamond out from there. You'll pick one of those characters that will stand out, that has. And that's what you need. Whether that person is internal or external. Some people think, and this has happened, all right? Principals will say to the governing bodies, if we appoint somebody from the outside, we're going to lose a teacher.
That's a famous one.
Famous one, right? You're going to lose a teacher. And so you are kind of, chided by guilt. You know what? I don't want any teacher here to lose their position and lose their job. It's somebody from the outside. No. That's not your job. Your job is to appoint the best person for the job That's your mandate, that's your responsibility, that's what you have to do. And whether it's somebody from the inside or outside, if you go into this process already with the outcome in mind, you know who you want, before you even go into the process, then how unfair, and that's what we call about how unfair it is to all the other candidates who spent money, who spent time, who spent effort, who may also be more qualified than your preferred candidate. But you don't know about that because you're not interested in looking for that. What you are looking for is just, I'm going into this process because I know we need to appoint this particular person. So what we're doing is just a kind of, ticking the box. It's a formality. This process is nothing but a formality, a mere formality, because we know ultimately who we're going to get. So this article that was written more to conscientize everyone, from department officials to principals to school governing body members, everyone who sits in these processes. It was to conscientize them to say, listen, do the best for the school. Not because you have a contact, not because you know somebody, not because somebody is a connection or a relative or a friend or somebody that you're just trying to push up. I mean, it's amazing. And I listen to practically all the time, listen to stories of where these things have gone horribly wrong because people have not done the right thing. They've not put the right person in there. I mean, I had one school that there was a whole host of things, and that principal was responsible for mismanagement of funds and all of that. And when I saw him and when I interacted with him, I think it might be out of place for me to say this, but my gut instinct was this fellow is rogue, because you could see it, his mannerism, the way he conducted himself. And I said, but how did you appoint this guy? And they were like, no, but when he was here, he was like so well behaved. Before that, he was at the top of his game. He was so good with us. The moment he got appointed as principal, the next month he stopped every governing body member from entering the school, and he started running the school on his own, taking own financial decisions and so forth. So sometimes the devil doesn't work.
True. Do you know how serious is the problem of alleged favoritism and manipulation in school leadership appointments? How serious it is? Especially, let's focus on our province, KZN.
Oh, it's very serious. In a sense where, okay, ask yourself this question, right? You got this HRM 10, you got this process. Before that, you had HRM 24 and all of that, right? Or HRM 20. You've got these processes going on, right? You ask yourself, how come more than 70%, 80% of candidates that were put into these positions were internal? If the process, by the mere or the very definition of it, is supposed to be foolproof, in a sense where you don't know who the candidates are, you don't know whether it's a male or female, you don't know which school they come from. All you're reading is that leadership and management, the social issues, community-related matters. That's all you're reading. You're not reading anything else. Not which school they come from, not whether it's a male or female, not whether it's an Indian, white, black or colored, not whether it's Hindu, Muslim. Nothing of that sort. But how come just with that information only, almost 70-80% of candidates that have been promoted have been internal candidates? How is that even possible?
Do you know, a message came through while you were chatting. It's quite a long message. Why is it, so basically she's asking, why is it that when the principal has an educator who they want to promote in a school, you are basically told no one else should apply for that post, and when you apply, you are victimized. That's quite often.
What you are talking about now is obviously a labor violation. It's as serious as that. It's ELRC can get involved, because at the end of the day, every educator is able to apply for any position they want to. If there's a promotion post or bulletin out, they can apply for that. your principal can't suppress you in that aspect.
Yeah.
And if he is saying that look, you should not apply, by the very definition, he is denying you your access to promotion. That's a labor violation.
Yeah.
So he can be charged for that if the person reports it through to the unions, and they report it through to ELRC, and they report it to the various structures. He can get, because you can't deny somebody from applying for a position. And certainly if you're victimizing somebody, then that's already a violation of your employment contract. You can't victimize a person because the person wants to progress, and the person wants an attempt to progress. You can't. I mean, that's just cruel, and people can get charged for that. I mean, people can be held accountable. You know, we live in a day and age now where there must be consequences for people's actions. I think for far too long we've gone on where, you know, principals just operated at liberty, at whim, at will, you know, and they dictated what happens in schools a lot of the time. But things have changed now. People have become more conscientized. Communities have become more aware. They've become more emboldened. I mean, no more communities now will just take whatever you give them. They'll double check you, they'll triple check you. And then there's also organizations, there's entities, there's the Department of Education has become, I mean, you know, 20 years, 30 years ago, there was not so much access to department officials as there are now.
Yeah.
You know, so you can go through to your circuit office and you can complain. You can go to wherever and you can complain. The public protector is there.
Yeah.
SACE is there. SACE is the organization and the Council for Educators. You can go there and you can complain.
And you know, we're mostly focusing on government educators, because when you look at it on your pay slip, you are paying for SACE, you're paying for ERC, you're paying for your union if you belong to. The deductions are so many there, so make use of it.
Yeah, well, I'm saying that, you know, educators, if they feel in some way, and I know it's difficult, you know, somebody might say, but Mr. Ghani, you're on the outside, you know, you don't know what's it like in our school. And you'd be right, I don't know. But what I'm saying is, silence leads to complicity.
Yeah.
If you are silent, if you don't speak out against injustice, if you don't do those things, then that evil just tends to perpetuate. Principals will do these things, and you know, sometimes they'll do it to their staff in a manner, and they'll continue until one brave staff member stands up and says, I will not accept this. I will challenge you on this. I will challenge you on that. Obviously, person becomes hated. That's, you know, when you challenge anybody, especially when they're used to getting their own way, and they appear to be powers unto themselves, and you challenge them, it's not a good thing, because they tend to get disturbed by that, and then they become very defensive. But you have to challenge it. What we're doing, and this article is, as I said earlier, is to conscientize every one of our people who sit in these processes. Do the right thing. You know, I'll tell you a story. It's a story, maybe people are listening, maybe they know. But I got called from a principal, and he said to me, Mr. Ghani, I need your help. And he retired. So he was like, oh, he said, do you know I retired? And I said, yeah, look, I've heard you retired. Are you enjoying retirement? He says, yeah, no, I am. You know, I'm doing a lot of traveling and all that. He says, I need your help. And I want people to listen to this story, because it smacks of what exactly we're trying to prevent. And then he says, I need your help. I said, what happened? He says, you know, I retired, right? I said, yeah. And he says, you know, I had in my mind a succession plan, and we gave the post to my DP. So he was going out of the system, he went out the system, and basically he worked with the governing body so that his DP got the principal position in the school. So they elevated him. So I said, I'm listening to this story. Already that is wrong, okay? But I'm listening. So I said, and now what do you want? And he says, well, you know what? This guy is running the school into the ground. He's really running the school into the ground. He said, now we've got a post for the DP. And we've got a very sharp lady on our school. A very sharp lady. And now we want to like kind of put her into that position. By the way, this is now I'm talking about this current one, right? And he says, we want to put her in that position. The only thing is, the union is not allowing us to do it. He said, we met with the union, and the union basically said to us, look, we gave that position to your guy for the principalship. He couldn't even speak in the interview, but we gave him that position. We now want the deputy principal for our candidate. And the principal is like, but you know what, we need it for this lady in our school because she's very good. Yeah. And he wants her to basically now take charge of the school because the principal that they've appointed, his succession plan is actually not delivering. And I was really upset.
Well, you know, when you think about it, that's the norm that happens most of the time. We'll be taking an ad break and we will continue. Our schools are not for sale. Fairness, transparency and accountability in school leadership appointments.
Radio Ansaar, Durban, South Africa.
Welcome to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031 306 4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickville Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
There are over 200 million orphans globally. We can't help all of them, but what if we each helped just one? The Al Imdad Foundation now gives you an opportunity to help just one orphan from Syria or Palestine. For just 500 Rand per month, you can help safeguard the dignity of an orphan by assisting them with basic needs such as food, clothing, shelter, medical care, and attention. Our orphan sponsorship program allows you to track the progress of your orphan through regular feedback. Make a difference in the life of an orphan today. Visit alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Looking for an unforgettable getaway that won't break the bank? Explore the bustling bazaars of Istanbul, uncover the ancient wonders of Egypt, or unwind on the pristine beaches of Mauritius. Experience the vibrant culture of India, or escape to the turquoise waters and golden sands of Zanzibar. Affordable adventures, endless experiences. Your next escape is just a click away. Call 031-208-4222 or visit www.miragetravel.co.za. Show Mirage Travel, where your dream journey begins.
At Absa Islamic Banking, we get that the first lessons about money are never just about money.
2, 3, 400.
And what do we do with it?
We save some and we give some.
That's my boy. They're about responsibility, generosity, principles, and banking that honors your values. Get an Islamic youth account for your children, plus discounted banking for your spouse with Ultimate Islamic Banking. Apply online. Your story matters. Absa. T's and C's apply. Absa is an authorized financial services and credit provider.
Your perfect companion, Radio Al-Ansar.
You're listening to School Matters with Sumaya Khan.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to School Matters with me, Sumaya Khan. We have a really hot topic today. It's hot. It's hot. When you come in, you keep it hot. I mean, you're coming there with all what they say, horns out. Our school are not for sale. Fairness, transparency, and accountability in school leadership appointments. I know lots of educators are saying, yes, what a nice topic. We want to hear this. How do we stop it? But as you said, we're trying to make people aware of this here. Do you know, how does political influence affects school leadership appointments?
Well,
that's currently the trend too.
You know, if you look at politics, all right, politics more often than not is very unionized or union aligned. 100%. Put it to you that way. And so sometimes there is that kind of thing that goes on, and you and I both know, right? In the education department, a lot of people who belong to unions are in very senior positions in the education department. We know that. So what happens is that there might not be a direct political interference or involvement, but there's certainly the presence. And that is actioned by the people that are there already. So some of these appointments in the department, I shudder to think could be political appointments.
Yeah, cadre deployment.
You know,
as
or
you said.
political appointments. I mean, I would term it as political appointments, which shouldn't be the case. But we live in a country now where, the the processes may not all be that transparent. This, what I speak about, and the article what I speak about is that 99.9% of the people that are sitting on these promotion post processes are our parents that sit on them. And this article was a direct, or at least a direct, I can't say instruction, appeal to them to say, listen, you sit there and you make this very known, that this is what you are sitting there and this is the purpose for which you are sitting there.
That
So
article
even
was on the Post.
it was in a number of the it was in the Rising Sun.
Because I like the way you broke it down, you simplified it how it works.
Yeah. So all I'm asking people to do is that you make your voice heard, that this is what we're going to do. So even if your principal or your department official or a union person or even your fellow colleagues that are sitting there with you, that are in any form, shape or manner colluding to get a particular candidate on, they know exactly where you stand, and they know exactly the fact that should anything be untoward, you're going to make it known, you're going to put a dispute in, you're going to ask for the process to be stopped, you're going to ask for a review, you're going to do all those kind of
Do you
things.
know, we're on air, so I'm not going to use words, but you know,
You have to use words.
No,
You're
but
on air.
when you think about it, right? Positive words I'm going to use. When you think about it, how many people do it? And so many of them, I'm saying this, they go through the whole process: the grievance, labor, anxiety, health goes. It's sometimes people say, a lot of educators who are teaching for over 25 years, they'll say, is it worth it for all that trauma?
Well, I can understand. Because some people say, you know what, and look, I've got people that came back and said, you know what, your article is brilliant, it touches on all the right buttons, it talks as to what is happening, but what's going to change? Now, here's the thing.
I think I asked you that too.
Now, here's the thing. I can't change anything. I don't sit in those processes. Okay? Not that I haven't been asked to, but I don't want to. I don't sit in those processes. If I was, I would exercise what I'm saying. I don't sit in there. The people that do are the people that can make the change. The people that sit in there, so that's why this article was done, is to conscientize those people that said, listen, if you sit in this process, you need to do what is right. You cannot be intimidated by anyone. And if any person intimidates you or infers that you need to go in a particular direction, you can't tell me as an adult that you don't know when you're being railroaded into something. You can't tell me you don't know. Okay? You can't tell me after the process has happened, they told me to do this, but I didn't know what was happening. I just went with the flow. You can't tell me that.
Case.
You can't tell me that. Because what it means is that you don't have the grey cells in which to apply what I call logic and common sense. You don't have the grey cells to do it. In fact, you shouldn't be let out of the house.
Do you know, another message came through on my cell phone. Well, people who we appoint as union reps, teacher reps, should be able to stand up for what is right.
Look, union reps are there to, more often than not, is to address issues of labor. Promotion post is just one aspect of it. So if you feel, but you must also remember, in terms of the promotion post processes, if an applicant, because you can't, not being an applicant, raise a dispute. You don't have any vested interest, so your dispute will never be upheld. But if you're an applicant in this process, or you're a stakeholder in the process, you can raise a dispute. So for example, if you're an educator and there was something that was fundamentally wrong with the process, you can lodge a dispute. If you've been a member of the governing body, the interview committee, and you found that was something that was wrong there, you can immediately stop and raise a dispute. You can do those things. That's how we get people to comply. If you see, the thing is, everybody can say, listen, great article, you've touched all the points, what you said is true, it exists, it's happening, because I'm getting that all the time.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'm saying, what are we going to do about it? You sitting on the governing body, what are you going to do about it? You sitting as a member of the interview committee, what are you going to do about it? If you're not even in the interview committee and you see this article, you make sure that you address it at a governing body level with your governing body members to say, listen, we want to make this very clear. The process is going to be handled fairly, transparently. We're appealing to our members who we've put in there and we've elected to sit in there that this is what we want. There will be no outcome before the process. We're not going to go in there with preconceived ideas that we're going to appoint this person or that person. That's not going to happen. We're going to go in there and we're going to select every CV. We're going to read through it thoroughly. We're going to mark it correctly. We're going to evaluate it. We're going to pull out the best person for the job. A couple of people, we're going to go through the process. We're going to appoint like that. And whether that person is from external or internal, it doesn't matter, because that person is going to be what we're looking for in terms of this school, its needs. That and if you do that at a governing body level, you tell me, even if the department official is sitting there, he cannot disagree with you, because what you would be saying would be 100%, which is what the expectation of this process is.
Do you know, I think when you look at it out of the box and long-term goal, how can the wrong appointment, put the school down, kill the staff morale, the learners are disadvantaged, the infrastructure. There's so many things, as you mentioned, they're not strong leadership.
Well, I just explained to you just now, and I think before the break we talked about the principal who put his buddy in there, okay, because he felt, okay, it's going to be good, it's whatever. And the guy, and by his own admission, he's telling me the guy's running into the ground. Now he wants to put somebody else in there just so that they can lift it up a little bit. If he did the right thing right at the beginning, the chances are he would have had the principal, a good principal. The governing body would have made a proper decision, and that principal would have taken it with his skills and transformed that school. That didn't happen. So there's the proof. If you don't place the right person in your school, that school's going to go down. That your staff morale is going to go down. Your infrastructure, your interaction, your engagement with the parents, your relationship with the educators, all of that is going to go for a toss. Why? Because you don't have the competency. You don't have the skill set to do it. You don't have the management and leadership qualities that are required for the job. You don't have any of that. So you're going to be like a bull in a china shop, or you're going to probably, just try and run around trying to put out fires rather than having a vision, having a mission, trying to elevate the school. Because, they say, you get into the school, you don't think about, hey, how am I going to, when I retire, what package am I going to sit on? Because I hate to think teachers did it for that reason. I think almost every educator, I don't think firstly educators go into the profession because of the salary, because I can tell you this much, teachers earn a pathetic salary.
Exactly, for someone who studied.
For graduates, okay? I can tell you that. So I know that when you get into the teaching fraternity, it's not because of the money, it's not because you're going to become rich. You do it purely for the passion, you do it for the purpose, you do it for the productivity in terms of what you see your learners. You're going to make a difference in the children's lives, in your communities. Nelson Mandela said this, education is the only education is the only thing that can transform our societies. So at the end of the day, that's what you want to do. So you get in there for the love of the profession. You don't get in there for the salary. And when you're in there, you do what you need to do. But some people obviously get in there for the wrong reasons, and then greed is a funny thing, because it transforms even sometimes the most honest people. We see that a lot in government. We see it everywhere, that people who are well-intentioned somehow get carried away with the you know the greed, the kind of what do you call it, the advancement that they want. And some people want to reach there without earning the stripes.
But that's the norm,
and then obviously we've heard this before, money changes hands, there's favors out there, in some cases even sexual favors are being done. I mean, I hear stories that baffle me as to
you
how
are
people
chair of the province, right?
Right.
You entire province,
right?
What are they, 11 regions?
There's 12 districts.
12 districts, right. So you are hearing stories all the time. You are being called constantly for advice. We need to be motivated, we need advice, pick up the phone. And you guys do not charge a fee. You don't. Compared to the other governing body associations, I know they ask for a fee. So tell us, what was the weirdest story you heard concerning
Oh, I can't say it on air. Yeah, but lots of weird stories, I think if I can just categorize it, one is money, okay, because there's allegations of people paying for posts and all of that. And we keep on saying, but people come forward, and we'll protect you, even though you may have paid for your post. But if you come through and say, listen, I want to now come clean, we'll be able to help you. People don't know that because, you know what, I paid for my post and lose my job.
Yeah.
You can understand that fear, but again, you've done something wrong. You've done something criminal. So that is one. Then there's also as I mentioned just before, the sexual favors. People are now being pushed and harassed to be able to, if you want this or if you want that, you need to do this. You understand? And that for me is scary. But I'll tell you something else. That's not as scary as a principal now asking for sexual favors to a parent for admission for their children in school.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's where they kind of you want space for your child in the school.
How do I put it? So you what you're saying, it's like you'll never expect the corruption from government-wise to filter all the way down.
I never expect it from people who are supposed to be professionals, academics, people who are supposed to be in a position of trust and authority. People are supposed to be discharging their duties in that. I'd never expect that to happen. But ultimately and evidently, it does happen.
Well, we have a message here from Brother Faisal. Salams. Same situation in government structure, especially they will never change. I believe every year is the same. Mr. GANI is here to give you confidence to take the bull by the horns.
You see, I understand people become despondent. It happens. But what happens if I become despondent now?
Yeah, true.
Do you understand? I don't have the capacity to become despondent because if I lose hope, then it means everybody loses hope. But if I give a glimmer of hope, and this article does just that, if I give people a glimmer of hope and I say, listen, you can be that instrument of change. You can be that person that walks into a room full of other people and say, we're going to do this right. We're going to do it by the book. We're going to make sure this, we're going to make sure that. You can be that person. You can be that person, even though everybody else in the room may be thinking differently. But if you walk in there and you say, we're going to do this right, we're going to go by the book, we're going to make sure we ask for accountability, we're going to make sure that there's transparency, we're going to make sure that there's no connection call here. If you start to say that language, it permeates through to the other people as well. Because some people sit there just very confused. Or some people sit there just very intimidated. And then one person walks in the room and says, I'm changing the dynamics of this. Mr. Principal, we're not going to go by what you are telling us. We're going to do what is right. Other people become stronger. So the call is right. Look, we live in South Africa. There's lots of corruption happening and all of that. But corruption has to stop with the people whose hands these powers rest. Exactly. And in this particular case, in school-based promotions, the power rests into the hands of the people that are making those decisions. 99% of time, it's our parents who are sitting in these processes and doing that. That's what we need.
Do you know, we discussed this many years ago, and every time we come on air, it's so important for the school governing body to be workshop. Because it's so sad. So many of them who are holding those positions were brought in because of somebody or someone, or I'm just saying these are views and opinions where maybe the principal or maybe another member of the governing body or someone say, you know what, you my friend, you my bra, come on. They don't know anything, but they're there just for a vote or to go with them, with the flow. So it's so important for governing body members to be workshopped. And some principals do it. But sadly, so many principals do not do it. They take it for granted that a parent, I'm not picking on any parent, I'm a parent myself, who knows the role of a treasurer, knows the role of a chair.
But can I tell you why?
Knows the role of a secretary.
Can I tell you why? So principals who are confident in their own skin will empower, educate, and develop their governing bodies. In fact, SASA, which is the South African Schools Act, number 84 of 1996, specifically calls for that, to say principals must capacitate their governing bodies. Okay? So principals are supposed to do that. Because as a principal, you're supposed to know the laws, the rules, the policies, the regulations. You're supposed to know all of those things. Yeah. That's why you're in that position. You're in that position not because of the color of your skin or your height. You're in there and you've been put there allegedly or on the basis that you have the competency and the skills because you know policy, you know procedure, you know regulations, you know all of those things. You know school laws. You're supposed to educate them. So principals themselves don't know. And then secondly, sometimes principals don't educate their governing bodies because the more you educate them, then the principal fears that
empowering them.
You're empowering them. It means I'm giving away my power and I want to be able to be in control. So you're giving away their power. I'm giving away the power. So let me just allow them to wallow in ignorance. Let them carry on. I'll just do what I need to do because there's some very basic things. Sometimes the mind shudders because principals are supposed to know it and they don't know. So principals sometimes deliberately keep these governing bodies suppressed in terms of knowledge because that's the way they control them. But here's the thing. Right now, everybody's got a smartphone, everybody's got access to internet. There's so much of information out there.
Yeah.
There's so much of knowledge out there. There's so much of institutions out there that capacitate, educate, empower governing bodies. All people have to do is ask. All people have to do is ask. So there is information out there, but people need to go and get it. Yeah. If you're not getting it from your principal, you're not going to get it from the department. You go out there and you get it. And it's available. At all times it's available.
Do you know, someone told me something, a Muslim educator teaching for 42 years, was just in an HOD, level 2 position. And she said, and this is so true, when we do the wrong thing, we are not perfect, we move away from our religion. I mean, let's just look like I'm a Muslim and she's a Muslim. She said, you bought that post. You got it corruptly. You got it with favors. That salary you're taking home every month
is haram.
You're feeding your family. You're basically living off haram.
Yeah, but see, it's for me. It's not a matter of being Muslim or not Muslim or whatever the case may be.
Do the right
for me, it actually takes more effort to do the wrong thing than to do the right thing.
Exactly.
It takes more effort. So why would somebody want to do that? And the secondly is that, look, just do the right thing because some point or the other, corruption, you'll get away with it. You may get away with it for a while, but at some point, it's going to show.
No, it will.
And I'm pretty sure in schools, people have seen, you're an educator. I'm sure a lot of educators have seen people who were appointed to posts who they don't have the competency, they don't have the skill level for it, and they've been given this post. And you may be a level 1 and you look at that
you're
and
doing
you
all
think,
the work.
I know more than this person. How did this person even get that? Because let me tell you something, at some point or the other, you'll be exposed. You may not know it, but you'll be exposed.
Yeah.
So, as I said, greed knows no bounds. And the thought of people getting posts without actually earning it is always going to be there.
Exactly.
But people like this, and I speak about who I've targeted, people, when I say targeted, I'm talking about in terms of the newspaper article, people who sit and process these things are the people who are supposed to work with integrity.
Exactly.
They're supposed to do that.
We can continue this topic and we can go on, and I'm telling you, definitely after the show, I'm definitely getting message. Jazakallah so much for taking the time. Do you want to give any contact number if educators, principals?
Yeah, sure. They can. You can contact me on. You just Google my name and you'll get the details there. It's VEE, and the surname is GANI, GANI, and my cell phone number is 083 786 7782. 083 786 7782. And you can contact me or send me a message, and I'll try as best as possible, try and see if I can help you.
Well, as we conclude today's discussion, one message stands out clearly. The future of our schools depend on integrity, fairness and accountability, and I think that's what we're lacking, accountability. School leadership positions are not rewards, favors or political opportunities. They are responsibilities that directly shape the lives of learners and the success of schools and children. When appointments are made fairly, schools thrive. When merit is ignored, everyone loses. Thank you once again for sharing valuable insight, Mr. Ghani, and thank you for listeners for joining us on School Matters. Continue to be active, informed and engaged, protecting the integrity of education. Until next time, remember, our children deserve the best leaders, our educators deserve fair opportunities, and our schools are not for sale. Assalamu alaikum.
That's the power